The Cardinals or Seahawks? Who takes the crowd in the NFC West? And, well, one of them has to win it, and one of them, if they win it, is probably going to get home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. Kyle Gaffner is here. I am Adrian Pedque. Are you in agreement with me when I say that Arizona and Seattle are the two best teams in the NFC?
Absolutely, you hit it right on the head. They're the two of the top teams in the NFC easily. They've got offense, they've got defense. They're that close to going back to the Super Bowl, each team.
Yeah. All right. So we will start with Arizona, and this is the team that's hey, that window is right now. You got Carson Palmer. He's like 36 years old now, 37, whatever how old he is, and you just got Chandler Jones in the offseason in a trade with New England. This team is looking studly. David Johnson looks like he's going to break out this year. I love the Cardinals this season.
I do too, and they've been there for a little bit since the 08 team, since they lost to the Steelers back in 08. They're finally there. It's a complete team right across the board. Like I said, offense, defense, but adding Chandler Jones is just another element. The only real weakness they really had was pass rush, and they got it right here by adding a specialist in Chandler Jones. He's a stud.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about Todd Bowles and that Cardinals defense, they never really had that stud that could get after the quarterback. They just kind of materialized blitzes, and that's how they created pressure because they didn't really have a lot of talent in that front seven except for like Calais Campbell, and they were still able to generate pressure. Well, now they actually have somebody that can legit get to the quarterback. Had 10 sacks last year. Now he's going to play outside linebacker for them in a 3-4. He should benefit very, very well.
He will. I think he'll have more sacks on this team than he did with that just because of how dynamic he is and how dynamic the Cardinals are. You got him. You got Marcus Golden coming off the other side. Calais Campbell, you had said, he's been a staple there for years. You know, run defender. They're loaded. Their back end, their linebackers got Dayon Buchanan. I mean, the list goes on. They're just stacked.
Yeah, they're stacked at every position. Patrick Peterson is a stud at cornerback. Tyrann Mathieu is quickly becoming one of the best safeties in the league. He comes off an injury, but, last year he was on a ridiculous pace, to even potentially win Defensive Player of the Year before, what did he tear up his knee? Is that what happened?
Yeah, against the Eagles.
Yeah. So
on a pick.
Yeah, that guy is unbelievable. The Honey Badger, he's a smaller guy. He's like 5'9", but he packs a punch. I mean, it's hard to explain, but he's a really, really, really good tackler, and he bangs people, which is just like unbelievable for a guy his size.
He's a little guy. He's incredible. He had those problems coming out of LSU, but I'm glad he straightened his life out because he's such a dynamic player. You knew it when he was coming out of college. He was going to be a great player, and he has been. Patrick Peterson mentoring him, I think, has helped a lot. But he brings it all. He got that 5-year extension, well worth it. And I think that's the reason they lost in the playoffs, because they lost him. It was such a huge hole that he left when he got hurt and he wasn't able to play.
Yeah. Let's move on to the offensive side of the ball real quick. All right, so Carson Palmer has this great year last year, kind of floundered a little bit in the postseason, but he's a perfect fit for Bruce Arians' offense for kind of vertical attack. He's that big type of pocket quarterback that can really get the ball out there vertically down the field. He's got a really, really big arm, isn't afraid to take shots as well. So really a perfect fit, and his career has just resurged while he's been in the desert.
Yeah, Bruce Arians, the way he can just toss it around. He's got great weapons out there. You got Fitzy, got Michael Floyd, David Johnson's a new element because they didn't have a running back. Chris Johnson was okay. He was decent, and they really don't have it. I think that would be another weakness. They're tight ends. They're not really – there's nothing really there. They got a solid line, especially on the left side with Valdir and Mike Iupati. And A.J. Shipley's pretty good too. But the way he could just throw the long ball, it's the touch. He's in the twilights of his career. And you're kind of seeing the older Carson Palmer when he was at Cincinnati, when he would throw it to Hushan Husmanzada or whatever his name is. Husmanzada and Johnson out there too. So it's nice to see. And they are in a win now mode because Fitzy's getting up there. He also got the 1-year extension just like Palmer did too. So it's a win now. I'd like for them to get a championship.
Yeah, they got the best trio of receivers in the league, at least in my opinion, and they can all do a little bit of everything. Actually, I worded that wrong. They each bring something different to the table. So Fitzgerald, he's been playing the slot the last couple of years, and he's still got great hands, catches everything, and kind of had a resurgence in his career last year. First time he's been like that good in a couple of years, at least statistically. He's a really, really good blocker too as a wideout. John Brown's the guy that stretches the field. He's a vertical deep threat. He has a lot of speed. And Floyd is like the intermediate guy that's like a good route runner. So each brings a little bit something different to the table, a very dynamic trio. And you talked about the line. That offensive line is very, very good. And they brought in Evan Mathis as well to play right guard for them. Valdir is a guy that, people may not recognize how good he is, but he's pretty good. Yapati is like a road grader in the running game. And A.Q. Shipley came over from Indianapolis, and he's been pretty good for them too at center. So really, really good offense, really, really good defense. And we both have them going actually, I don't know what you have them going, but we both have them winning the NFC West. Mm-hmm. I have them going 13-3 again.
That's what I have them going too.
Yeah, so and to even take it a step, actually, you know what? I'll save it for the playoff predictions when we do that show. So because I got Arizona going pretty far. All right, let's see. What else do we want to talk about? We talked about Deion Buchanan, right?
Mm-hmm. Made
the transition from safety to linebacker. And, this goes to this point where, the prototypical linebacker isn't prototypical anymore. These guys are smaller now. And it's because of the speed of the game. It's gotten faster. Receivers are getting smaller, these slot guys. So, your big thumper in the middle, you don't really have that anymore in today's game. And you're seeing more and more safeties making that transition. Deion Buchanan is not the only one.
No, they did it out with the Rams, Mark Barron. And you're going to see a lot more teams start to do this because they're big enough. Although it hurts them in the run game sometimes because the big guys go there and push them around, but the game has changed. It's a more pass-happy league. And the receivers are getting a lot smaller, so you can kick them out into the slot, and your big thumpers are going to be getting burned on that. So there's still teams that kind of do it, but the dynamic of the game, it's just changed completely. So you're going to see guys bring down there, and you see a lot more nickel packages than you used to, too.
Yeah, the nickel package has actually become like a base defense because it's being utilized 63% of the time now. So I believe that's what it is. I believe that's a stat that I saw. So, and then going real quick to the tight end, you kind of talked about how it's a weakness. Darren Fells is like, he has potential because he's a guy that never really played football. He's a basketball guy. So maybe watch out for him. He's really, really athletic. So we'll see if he can kind of turn the corner there for Arizona. But other than that, man, I mean, this team is stacked. And I guess we'll go to overrated, underrated players right now if you got some.
I do. I think they're overrated guys. Gresham, guy never really came into his own, was drafted very high. We were talking about the tight end position. I think he's very highly overrated, just never really materialized. And underrated, I got to go with Calais Campbell. Another guy that just is fantastic and just doesn't get noticed enough because he doesn't have that pizzazz, the stat numbers of all these sacks and stuff. He does everything. He eats up blocks. He stops the run. So I think he's a very underrated guy that deserves a lot more. I mean, for everything that he's done, you got other guys that are getting sacks off of his production.
Yeah, I had him as like either the second or third ranked 3-4 defensive end. So he's definitely up there, and maybe people don't realize it. That he's huge. He's like 6'9". He's got so much length. So he obviously uses those hands to his advantage. I mean, guy, you can't get to his chest because he's got so much length. So he easily gets into the backfield. He's got a good swim move, as you can imagine, with that length. So he creates a lot of havoc. Let's see. Other underrated guys, I guess maybe A.Q. Shipley because maybe not a lot of people recognize who he is. I mean, I don't think he's like great or anything, but he's Marcus Golden, actually.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he would be underrated. I'll go with him. Overrated. I mean, you said Jermaine Gresham. I don't know. DJ Swearinger. He's. I'll go Robert Kimdiche. I don't think he's going to be anything. I'm not really high on him.
We'll have to see. They did add him. See if they can. It seems they had success with the Honey Badger, so maybe they have they could solidify him and get him out of that troublesome era since he was such a young kid. Because the Honey Badger, they did it with him, and he's turned out great. So he's got that type of talent where he could be a game changer. So who really knows? But they have a good culture out there, and a winning culture could probably help them too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you can't really put him as overrated yet because he's a rookie. We don't know what he's going to do. So, I mean, I was going to put David Johnson on the underrated list, but it seems like he's gotten so much hype to the point where is he really underrated anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say because he was thrown into that spotlight. Maybe before he started doing all the things for the Cardinals that he was doing last year, having those breakout years, especially against the Eagle. Maybe he wouldn't have, but DJ Swearinger, I would agree with that too.
Yeah, he stinks.
Yeah, he's awful.
Yeah, yeah, man. Because if you go back and look at my draft rankings from last year, David Johnson was like my big sleeper. I remember watching some FCS stuff with. I mean, the guy he's got these long strides, and he's so deceptively fast. He covers a lot of ground, and we saw this last year. You can give him a swing pass, and he just goes down the sideline. Before you know it, he runs past everybody. It's insane.
Like something you see in Madden.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, so that's Arizona. Let's move on to Seattle now. The big dilemma in Seattle is their offensive line. Their offensive line is a total mess. Their tackles are Gary Gilliam and Jamarcus Webb. That is awful. Jermaine Ifedi is going to try to make the transition from tackle to right guard, or maybe left guard. I don't remember which one it was.
He's right guard.
Right guard, okay. So he was taken in the first round. Mark Glowinski is their other guard, and it's bad. And Russell Wilson can at least make it look somewhat good because of his mobility, but he was still sacked I think it was 49 times last year, which is just absurd. I don't know if it was 4. It seems like too high, but maybe it wasn't.
It really is atrocious. I just don't know why they didn't really focus more on getting some more tackles, but I think they rely so much on Russell Wilson. They really believe in Russell Wilson's ability to be mobile and dodge all these guys with his running ability that they can kind of put whoever out there. You had touched on they brought the rookie in. I like Jermaine Ifedi. I think he could easily make the transition from guard to tackle. He's got long arms. He's athletic, so I'm okay with them there. But the rest of the guys, big head scratcher. And they moved Justin Britt over to center. He was a tackle in his first year that they moved into guard. He didn't do well there, so they're trying him out at center. So maybe he'll have some better luck there. But that's okay because they're going to rely on their defense, much like these other teams that we have talked about, and the ability of Russell Wilson to create and get these guys out there because they never really had the big weapons. And I'm wondering to see if we're really going to see the Jimmy Graham of old now because they traded for him. They gave him up to give Russell Wilson that type of game-changing element to a receiver that can make something out of something. Because Jimmy, I consider him more a receiver than a tight end, even though he plays the tight end position.
I agree with that. They didn't utilize him correctly last year. They kind of have they like their tight ends to block a little bit more than New Orleans does, and even the type of routes he was running, he likes to kind of go up the seams. He kind of likes the back shoulder type of balls, utilizing his basketball background, kind of boxing people out using his body, and he just was a bust last year. So it's up to Pete Carroll to put him in the right position to succeed. Now, going back to that offensive line for just a second, it's insane to me how Thomas Rawls could come in there and do what he did last year. As an undrafted player, Marshawn Lynch is now retired. He's eating Skittles on his couch. So Rawls comes – I forget what his yards per carry average was, but it was like 4.5.
It was like 4.6 or something. It was something insane.
It's insane what he was able to do. And, that's we talked about Melvin Gordon for the Chargers, and we talked about how that offensive line stunk. Well, Seattle's offensive line is even worse, and Rawls was still able to put up those huge numbers. That's insane to me.
Yeah, he really did come out of nowhere. It looked like he's a apparent heir to beast mode. We'll have to see. He's coming off that ankle injury, so they're going to be mixing it up. They drafted C.J. Prois out there. They got a Kristen Michael, so they're going to be throwing a lot of different backs out there because you got the ground and pound, and you got the fast guy. So it's interesting to see. I think they had a better line last year that they did this year. I mean, it wasn't much better, but they had a couple guys. It's just, and they're very young too on this offensive line. So I think we're going to see a lot more throwing like we did from Russell Wilson last year because he had his best throwing offensive season that he has in his entire NFL career. He had like 35 touchdowns or something. He threw for 3,500 yards or something crazy like that.
He led the NFL in passer rating with like 110.1. So, when they won the Super Bowl, he was still a game manager. Now he's starting to hit the twilight of his career, or the what do you call it?
Prime.
The prime of his career. There you go. So now he's hitting the prime of his career, and he's a stud. He really is. And those receivers that he has are kind of underrated. Doug Baldwin is the perfect complement because Wilson scrambles a lot. And Baldwin is a guy that is very good at, working with the quarterback and finding soft spots and zones and, kind of making something out of nothing. And he's got great hands too. And then another guy to consider this year about possibly breaking out is Tyler Lockett. This guy is explosive. He's got big play type of ability. Great after the catch, as you can imagine, if how good he is as a punt returner. So he's got good vision. So I really like that pair there in Seattle.
I do too. And if they could just have Jimmy Graham come back to his old, they really have an explosive offense because Doug Baldwin does find the soft spots in the zone. If he does scramble, he just doesn't sit there. He goes to the right place at the right time. He's got very good hands, very underrated catcher, and Tyler Lockett is explosive. You get this guy in the open field, just look out. I thought he was going to break Dante's Hall record at one point the way he was going. I mean, you never know. He's still very, very young. So yeah. He's incredible. He's got speed. He's got some nice hands. And you could throw him all over the field. He's like a Weapon X type guy.
Now, going to the defense, it's crazy, man. This defense is still very, very stacked, even though they kind of keep losing guys each and every season now. Obviously, you can't keep everybody that you draft. You just don't have the money to pay all these guys. So guys like Malcolm Smith, Bruce Irvin, these guys aren't there. I mean, Brandon Browner was a couple years ago. He turned out to be nothing because he came back to Seattle and then he got cut. So he didn't turn out to be anything. But they just keep, plugging away. You still got your studs. You got Michael Bennett. You got Bobby Wagner. You got Earl Thomas. You got Richard Sherman. KJ Wright. What's that?
Bam Bam Cam too.
Bam Bam Cam. See, I forgot. Like, you can't even name all the guys because they're so good. So much talent still on this defense.
And they've managed to keep the core together, as you said. Like the LOB, obviously, you keep those three together. They pay Michael Bennett. Bobby Wagner's a tackling machine. So the other guys that they let go, they seem to draft and give compliments to these guys, the guys that you can afford to let go, like the Malcolm Smith have turned into nothing. Bruce Irvin was a pretty good guy coming off the edge, but I like Frank Clark coming out of there. They picked up Jaron Reed, even though he's like more like a run stuffer. They just seem they get these rookies that they just develop and turn into the next Seattle defense that's going to step up for guys that play in the Seattle. I like a guy at Ohio State that they pal too that I really like. Kind of development to when Cam gets out of there, but their defense is just it's loaded.
Yeah, and some of the other guys that they draft. I like Jeremy Lane. Jeremy Lane's going to start alongside Richard Sherman. Then even outside linebacker, Kevin Pierre-Louis looks like he might be something. So they draft so damn well. And clearly, I mean, Jesus Christ. So I guess we'll get to overrated, underrated right now. Who you got?
I think I got a couple with the underrated. Underrated is Doug Baldwin. He gets no love. And Cam Chancellor, I feel like, is lost in the LOB. I think
because I forgot to state him.
He does a lot more than people expect. You can throw him in the middle. He's good at coverage. He can lay hits out on you. And wow, he was a 5th-round pick, so awesome. I mean, everybody always thinks of Earl Thomas, obviously. And my overrated guy is actually Richard Sherman. I don't think he's as good as talked about. If I would give him more props, he's very talented, but I'd like to see him go all over the field as opposed to just sticking to the right side or the left side. I'm sorry. if you are that great of a corner, you'd be able to be put anywhere. That's why I thought when it was the comparison between Revis and him, Revis always had it because Revis went all over the field and covered everybody. Sherm always stays to the one side, so I think he's a little bit overrated.
I have him ranked as my top cornerback, but, like, I still understand what you're saying, though. It's like, you know, I don't have him as highly ranked as I used to. And part of that is I think he has lost just a little bit of what he once was, just a tad. Because I have him ranked as like an 8.9. He's always been over a 9 for me.
He's awesome.
Yeah, awesome player, obviously. So, yeah, that's interesting that you put him on the overrated side, but I don't disagree with it at all, even though I have him as the top-ranked corner. It's crazy to think that, but yeah, I agree with you. And that's a good point on Revis, because Revis does line up everywhere, and he can do a little bit of everything. Now, for me, I referenced some of these guys earlier. You talk about Doug Baldwin. I mean, that guy's a stud. I think he's a stud, and no one knows how good he is. Kevin Pierre-Louis and Jeremy Lane would be my 2 underrated guys. I also like Marcus Burley a little bit, the other cornerback they have. Yeah. They're just studs. Even Deshaun Shedd, another one. I mean, they just keep finding these cornerbacks. And, you know, I wish the Eagles could take some notes, because we never draft cornerbacks. Cornerbacks are really, really supposed to be tough to evaluate. And they always bring these guys in. Yes, you got the Legion of Boom playing with all those guys, but still, I mean, they're all just solid players, and
they hold their own, and they're all later picks. These aren't top draft. You're talking
4th, 5th, 6th round guys. Yep. Insane. I'll put Frank Clark on the underrated list too. I like him too. You mentioned him earlier, so yeah, I'll go with them. Maybe KJ Wright's underrated, because this guy is like, he does a little bit of everything, but he kind of gets lost in the shuffle because of how dominant that defense is. So
because of how dominant, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go KJ Wright too. You got any other thoughts on the Seahawks before we move on?
I'm wondering how the running back committee is going to be, because how successful Rawls was last year, I don't know what it is, because Christian Michael's been very successful. So is he going to start over him? Are they going to keep riding the hot hand? Because Pete Carroll tends to do that. It doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if Thomas Rawls, ran for 4.6 yards last year. So I'm interested to see what they do out there. And they got C.J. Proas that they drafted. So I wonder what they're going to do out there.
What about record-wise? I forgot to ask the record. I got them going 12-4.
Oh. I have them going 12-4 as well.
Okay. All right. So, by the way, we did not look at our fucking records beforehand, but we've been having a lot of the same shit today, which is funny.
Great mind things alike.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, let's move on to the Rams. Fucking Rams. So you give up all those picks for Jared Goff. And Jared Goff, I'll tell you what, right now, he looks like shit in the preseason. And, I was not a Jared Goff fan heading into the draft. And, yes, it's still early, but, ew, I am not liking what I'm seeing.
I'm not impressed either in the way this guy carried himself. Like, he was humble, but you could tell that he thought he was the shit, that he was deserving of the number 1 pick, that I should be the number 1 pick over Carson Wentz when they were comparing those two. And I'm not impressed with him at all. He looks completely lost. I think he's 3rd string on the depth chart. I don't even think he's the backup. He's definitely not starting the season, as we know, but you give all those picks up for your franchise quarterback, and you would expect a little bit more. I mean, I'm very, very surprised. You moved to a new city, so you're gonna, expect this to be electric. You get your new quarterback, you're getting some excitement, but yikes! It just looks like the same old Rams out there.
Yeah, I get why they did it. I get why you make the move, because this team is ready to win now. You got Todd Gurley. You got a really, really dominant defense. Robert Quinn, Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers. You got William Hayes on that defensive line. You got Mark Barron. You got Alec Ogletree. I mean, this team is loaded defensively.
Tremaine Johnson.
Yeah. Tremaine Johnson's good. So they're loaded defensively. But, I mean, the key to them, obviously, because they've been going 7-9, 7-9, 7-9 each and every year because they don't have a quarterback. And if Goff is a bust, then this team is just fucked, man. They're fucked.
You really set yourself back. So the way he looks, it doesn't look like he was worth giving up the farm, so to speak, to go get him. Because this is going to set you back years, if not. Gurley could be either leaving by that point. You expect this guy to make huge strides, and it just doesn't look like that because they are in a win now. But the problem is they're in such a great division. Is it going to be enough to get past Seattle and the Cardinals? And I don't think so. Not at all.
Nope, not at all. Definitely not. Let's talk about Gurley just a little bit because, I mean, this guy heading into his second year, he's a stud already. What he does best is his ability to bounce and run to the outside, the vision that he has to be able to bounce. Now, as the season went along, defenses started to figure this out just a little bit. And not that he struggled or anything, but he wasn't as great as he was to start the year. So it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of adjust back actually to the league because he is great at bouncing to the outside, but sometimes he bounces it too much to the point where he got figured out.
It's not college anymore. You can't use your speed to outrun everybody. It's the NFL. Everybody's just as fast, if not faster than you at this point because you're at the top of your game right now. You're playing all these other great players. He does have great vision. He's big. He's the best running back I've seen come out since Adrian Peterson. The guy has it all, and he did all this coming off of a crucial injury, and he looked fantastic. They have a younger line, so there's going to be some continuity that they need to play better. They're very young out there. You know, they got Greg Robinson. They got Saffold out there. They don't have any other offensive weapons, though, which is the problem. So you put Aiden in the box against Gurley, what are you going to do?
Yeah, this is interesting, too, because this is another team. The offensive line is, like, not great or anything. It's better than Seattle and San Diego, though,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Greg Robinson has to get better. I mean, he's been really bad, actually. He's a good run blocker, but as a left tackle, you got to be a lot better at pass protection, and this guy just doesn't have it right now. Rab Havenstein, he's pretty solid. Roger Saffold in the inside playing guard, he's okay. So at least they have at least something there, which is better than other teams. Even though I still think they're one of the bottom units in the league.
Yeah.
But wide receiver, I mean, you said it there. They just gave Tavon Austin big money. And they're saying like they're paying for his future production.
How much longer?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet out of him, so we'll see.
I don't know what they're waiting for. The guy's been in the league for what, 4 or 5 years now. I don't know if they think that all of a sudden he's just gonna like kick it into gear and be this unstoppable force, but I just don't see it. I think he was better suited out there in the dome with that artificial grass than he is on real grass because of his speed, the way he can run. He's very fast. He's like a gadget player. But other than that, he can't do too much. He had a decent season last year, but how long was that did it take for us to see a little production out of him? So I wasn't in agreement with that. I thought they should have made a move to get, something else in the draft. They got the Tyler Higbee with one of their 3 picks that they had left after giving up with the 400 that they gave away to get Goff. But they at least make a move, maybe a trade or something, or pick somebody up in free agency. But they just didn't make any moves.
Yeah, well, they made moves. They got rid of guys.
Yeah. Yeah, they let people go. They didn't bring them in.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I like how they utilized Austin last year, but like I don't think he's worked the contract. But they kind of utilize him in the backfield sometimes, and they had him play running back. But now you got Todd Gurley, so you really shouldn't be doing that. You really shouldn't have to do that. Let's move on to the defensive line because this defensive line is just studly. Oh my God. Robert Quinn bends the edge. That guy gets pressure on the quarterback. Aaron Donald.
Incredible.
Aaron Donald, best defensive tackle in the league. And defensive tackle might be the most loaded position right now in the NFL besides quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's the best of the bunch. And then they got underrated guys all over the place. William Hayes is a stud, I think. Ethan Westbrooks, he's the guy that beat out what's his name? Michael Sam. Remember when Michael said, like, everyone was like focused on, oh, can he make the team? Can he make the team? He couldn't make the team because Ethan Westbrooks was a stud in that training camp. Dominique Easley, they brought him in from New England. You got Eugene Sims there as the defensive end. This team is like 7, 8 guys deep there on the defensive line.
Yeah, they are loaded. So even if one guy goes out, the next guy's going to step up, and the production will slightly be a little bit lower. But these guys are very, very solid. Brockers too. You had touched on him. Got Alec Ogletree, it's Tremaine Johnson. Safety, I think, is a little weak there. But so I like Janoris Jenkins, but he left in free agency. I was a big fan of Jenkins too. It just their defense is definitely their shining strong point of this team, and it just seems to be the way of the NFC West. It's just strong defenses with great running backs.
Yeah. I like T.J. McDonald. Obviously, they lost Rodney McLeod, so they really don't have a second safety right now. Tremaine Johnson, you touched on him. The guy I'm curious to see, he had forget what injury he had. It wasn't a knee injury, but I think he broke his leg or something. E.J. Gaines, their other cornerback. He had a really, really good rookie season. He was like a 6th round or 7th round pick or something. And he looked really good. And I'm curious to see how he bounces back from that injury. You talked about Ogletree. He moves from outside linebacker to inside. He's the middle linebacker now. With
better suited there.
Yeah, I think so too. So he's pretty good. Mark Barron kind of touched on him a little bit. So they got players all the way around there on that defense.
But Marcus Joyner, too, interesting to see if he has a bounce back here. He a smaller guy, but very quick. I think he's better suited to a slot corner, but I think they have him playing opposite of Tremaine Johnson now.
Yeah. All right. Underrated, overrated. Let's see. I'll go William Hayes in my underrated. That guy's a stud, and nobody knows who he is.
William Hayes he's incredible. I can't believe nobody knows who he is. I mean,
literally nobody knows who he is. Nobody.
That's incredible. I think this is going to be a tough one to pick on here.
There's not a lot of overrated guys, but I mean, maybe Greg Robinson
or Tavon Austin. You could reach.
Yeah, you know what? Tavon Austin will get overrated. Yeah, that's a good one.
For underrated, I'd say watch out. He's a rookie. I would say watch out for Pharaoh Cooper. I really like what he brought to the table when he was in college. So I would say watch out for him this year to have a breakout season because they've whipped on a lot of their receivers like Brian Quick and then Tavon Austin. So I would say look out for him and Higbee too.
Okay. Yeah, they got underrated players all over that defense. Talk about E.J. Gaines, T.J. Brockers, Tremaine Johnson. Tremaine Johnson's a stud at cornerback. He's probably better than Janoris Jenkins, I think.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and people don't know who he is either.
That's why he got tagged.
Yeah. Eugene Sims, I talked about him too. I mean, they're loaded all the way around. What do you got the Rams going this year?
8-8.
Okay, so you got 8-8. I got 7-9. So that's basically the same thing almost.
They always
7-9 again.
They always play. It was tough because they always play the Cardinals and the Seahawks good. So I don't know if they're going to lose both of those, but they always play them tough. So they're either going to win one of those matchups, I think.
Yeah. All right. It's time for the Niners. Yeah.
Not even worth talking about.
We won't spend much time on them. They had the gold rush during the Jim Harbaugh era, and the last couple of years it's been the gold flush. Just flushed right down the toilet. All that talent they had and
gone.
This team is just it's fucking terrible. And you know, Chip Kelly, I was a Chip Kelly guy here in Philadelphia, but I don't know how the fuck he can turn this team around.
Well, I don't know how either. You literally have almost no talent across the board on this. This team is like close to the Browns in talent-wise. They're just in a complete rebuild mode. I'm not a fan of Chip Kelly. I know he likes to run a lot. They've got a decent running back out there. I like Carlos Hyde, but the offensive line is trash. It's an abomination. Joe Staley's getting up there. He's still a very good left tackle. You got that drama out there with Kaepernick and him throwing his arm up because you suck and you're never going to start ever again. It's rough to see. Because how do you go from one of the best teams to one of the worst in that 3-year period?
you get rid of a coach that you should have never gotten rid of, and then all these guys retired. Patrick Willis and
Young.
yeah. So it's unreal, man. I mean, they got. I don't want to say they have like a lot of guys, but they have like sprinkled in some talent. I mean, Navarro Bowman obviously is really good. I like Aaron Lynch, the outside linebacker. I like Ian Williams, the nose tackle, and they got something there up front. Pair of first-round picks: Eric Armstead last year, Forrest Buckner this year. But other than that, there's really not much. I mean, I like Jimmy Ward and Eric Reed. I guess their defense might be a little bit better than people think. But that offense, I mean, even though Chip Kelly's the offensive aficionado, there's just nothing there except Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, you got no wide receivers. I mean, Anquan Bolden, if he was still here, would have been great to have because these wideouts are completely terrible. You got the Carlos Hyde like you touched on. I like Eric Reed a lot. Jimmy Ward's decent. They're kicking him out to corner, which they should have done when they drafted him. There was a little bit of logjam there. And I love Aaron Lynch like you had touched on, but I don't know how they're going to move the ball. Like Blaine Gabbert or Kaepernick, like, is that really even a controversy? It's like, man alive, they're both complete bums, I think. It's going to be tough they're going to need Chip's offensive aficionado skills because I don't know what they're going to do to move this ball. Wildcat? Are you just going to have the punter throw the ball?
Just give it to Carlos Hyde every snap.
Oh, man. It's just like I feel bad for the city of San Francisco. Like, this is a curse for winning them 5 Super Bowls when you did, for having one of the greatest teams ever.
I am curious to see what Chip Kelly can do with this shitty-ass team because they're man. I will give them credit, though, because they had all that money to spend in free agency, and they didn't do it. And I thought it was smart because why are you going to throw money around on a team that's not going to win right now? So it's better off to try and draft some guys and lock them up when they kind of, reach that 4th, 5th year of that rookie contract, and you extend them. And that's how you build winners in the National Football League. So I will give them credit there. Other than that, this team stinks. We're not going to spend any more time on them. So I got them going 3-13. You might even have them going worse.
I got them going 2-14, and that was a stretch.
Yeah, so there you go. Let's see. I mean, we talked to some underrated, overrated guys. I'll go Aaron Lynch there. I mean, Eric Reed, Jimmy Ward. I don't know if they're really necessarily underrated because people know who they are. So I'll just go Ian Williams and Aaron Lynch. Those are my 2 underrated guys.
Aaron Lynch was my underrated guy. I mean, the guy's got pass rushing skills. He's very good. He's going to be jumping on the scene this year, even more so than he has been if you haven't been watching. So he's definitely a bright spot. Overrated. Ugh.
I guess Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, definitely.
I mean, I'd still have Kaepernick start over Gabbert because I am not high on Gabbert at all. But I do know that's a guy that you used to watch a lot, huh?
Oh God, I tried not to. What a complete whiff. We took him instead of J.J. Watt. What a great decision, Jacksonville. Great. You take Blaine Gabbert. But they say he's really coming on. He's starting to come into his own like 7 years later. So I guess the fountain ran a little dry out there.
The light bulb came on, huh?
Jesus God. Yeah, let's see what he does with the skeleton crew out there.
I do like Josh Garnett. I do like the guard. I think he's going to be pretty good. So I like him. I wouldn't have traded up for him the way they did, but I do like him as like a run kind of blocker for them. Even though he's more of he's like a power player. And Chip Kelly's offense, you need kind of more
finesse.
Yeah, you need finesse, and you need your offensive line to move around. So I don't know how that's going to work out for them, but yeah, that's it for the Niners. I'm done talking about them. They're terrible.
They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They'll be picking top 5, so maybe Chip can do a little bit of magic there. We'll see if he lasts here longer than he did in Philadelphia.
I'm really curious because, I mean, if he doesn't make it here, he's going back to college, and I don't know if he can because there's just no talent there. I am one of the few that is a Chip Kelly guy, though. So if this team wins 6 games, then Chip Kelly did a fucking fantastic job this year.
Agreed. If he can get more, above 5, then he's all on the up and up. But if San Francisco loses yet another coach to going back to college, they'll never hire another college coach for 20 years to come. because that would be two that did it to him.
Well, one of them they should have kept.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just their stupidity.
That's management for you.
Yeah, they that's ego trouble. That's ego problems. They let their ego get in the way of potentially winning a Super Bowl. So, idiots. What can I say?
Couldn't have said it better. Complete morons for letting him go, because look what he's going to do at Michigan now.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on anything we talked about in this video?
It's interesting to see if LA does better than we had predicted, because who knows? Maybe with Case Keenum, do they win 9-10 games and get into the playoffs? Probably not, but they're out in LA. I feel bad for St. Louis for losing a team. They might be joined by San Diego next year. So LA is going to be greedy and have two teams instead of just having one. You really screwed over St. Louis, NFL. Good job. Good job.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see about the Rams, because they finished the year 3-1, and when they finished 3-1, they ran the ball a lot more. With obviously you got Todd Gurley, because you look at the NFL last year, every team threw the ball more than they ran it, except for the Bills. The Bills were the only team that ran the ball more than they threw it. And if the Rams want to be successful, they better run that ball like 60% of the time. And that's what Jeff Fisher normally likes to do. So that's kind of Jeff Fisher type of football. Run the ball a lot, get the ball to your tight ends, and kind of play efficient type of football, methodically drive the ball down the field. And if they can do that, maybe they can win like 9 games.
He had success when he had Eddie George and Steve McNair. You can kind of do that with Case Keenum and Todd Gurley. I mean, obviously Keenum's not a McNair, but you got a solid defense out there. Run the ball, play smash mouth defense. That's the success in this NFL. Don't stray away from what works in the old NFL. Run the ball, play hard defense.
So there you go. All right, for Kyle Gaffner, I am Adrian Fedke. We are out, and tomorrow I guess we're going to do 2 more of these. So banging these divisional previews out right before the season starts on Thursday, not Sunday. There you go. We're out.
See ya.